What up, guys? Son of Wonder here. The Tales of the Empire trailer dropped a while ago, and I'm a little late to the party on this one, but nonetheless, let's conversationalize. Alright, guys, so like I said, I'm late to the party. Trailer dropped a while ago, but I figured I should just do a dedicated video talking about what I think about this trailer for Tales of the Empire. Basically just like Tales of the Jedi, except it's about Imperial-related characters and not Jedi-related characters. And it's like, it seems like it's in a similar format, like the same kind of shorts and stuff. Like Tales of the Jedi was about stories about Ahsoka and Count Dooku. And this series looks like it's going to be Tales of the Empire, which is stories about Morgan Elsbeth and Barriss Offee. Now, right off the bat, I gotta be honest, guys, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed. A lot of other people are excited for this. I get it that Disney did the member berries thing. They did the member berries thing. They do. Listen, first off, I've been a Dave Filoni loyalist for a long time. I've defended Dave Filoni on tons of his decisions. I loved Clone Wars as a kid. I love Rebels. I love a lot of his stuff. But that's not to say he can't make mistakes. And I've kind of been learning that over the course of these recent years concerning his Star Wars television. And even as I've been watching Bad Batch Season 3 and reviewing it, I've been enjoying parts of it, but as a whole, I still feel like it's just not nearly as compelling and like collectively enjoyable as it could be. Similar problem that I had with Season 2 of The Bad Batch. And we keep getting the same stuff from him, honestly, and I loved Tales of the Jedi. I thought the stuff they did with Count Dooku and that was awesome, like exploring his backstory, I thought that was great. But when it comes to this show, like first off, I thought they were going to do a Tales of the Jedi Season 2 this year, and that might still be coming, but this might just be a replacement for it. I'm not really sure. There were rumors a while back that we were getting Tales of the Sith, and then it just very randomly, out of nowhere, dropped one day that it's actually Tales of the Empire, and they dropped this trailer. And so, just to cut to the chase, let's be honest. Of all the characters that you could have chosen for a Tales of the Empire series, they chose Morgan Elsbeth and Barriss Offee. Now, like I said, I loved Clone Wars. I loved Rebels. I even enjoyed Ahsoka when I watched it. But if you went to any any Star Wars fan who hasn't gone that deep into the cartoons and stuff and all that, they would have no idea who these characters are. And if you're just seeing this trailer for the first time, it's like, hey, cool, it's... What was her name again? I don't remember. That kind of stuff. And that is not what Star Wars needs right now. It does not need more stories about characters that clearly the majority of the audience probably doesn't have an interest in. I've wanted to see what happened to Barriss Offee after Clone Wars for a long time. They haven't done anything with her since the end of Season 5 of the Clone Wars. And, they left her story arc on a pretty big cliffhanger. Similar to Ventress, and then they brought Ventress back in the Bad Batch, which I thought was pretty cool. But devoting an entire, I get that they're shorts, but devoting, half of this short series to Barriss just seems a bit, okay, that's not necessary. We could tie up, that loose end in something else. Maybe they could have incorporated her story in somebody else's, but she's just not a character that... I just don't think she's a character that people want to see a whole story about. Morgan Elsbeth especially, I don't think many people want to see her entire backstory, because if you haven't seen Ahsoka, spoilers for Ahsoka, but in Ahsoka, it's explained that Morgan Elsbeth was a Night Sister who lived on Dathomir, and was part of the battle against the Separatists when General Grievous came to her world and destroyed all the Night Sisters. And Morgan Elsbeth is a survivor from that massacre. And they explain this via Mandalorian and Ahsoka. It's explained just enough to where the audience is like, okay, yeah, she was part of this and now she's here. spoilers for Ahsoka, she dies at the end of the series. And not really in like the most like ceremonious of ways. It's more just like Ahsoka just destroys her in a fight. That's the end of her character. Okay. She was a side villain. Not a whole lot to her. Fine. But it's very similar to how the MCU did with Black Widow. It's like they destroyed her in Endgame and then did a whole movie about Black Widow after Endgame. So it just seemed like the timing was very weird. It's similar in this situation where you literally just killed off this side character that not a ton of people were super invested in. And now we're going to do an entire backstory detailing what happened to her? It just seems very unnecessary. But the extra issue with that is, guess what? Via her backstory, we get to see Thrawn. We get to see General Grievous. General Grievous came back. Now, I would like to clarify, General Grievous is my second favorite Star Wars character. So if anybody should be excited about that reveal that Grievous is going to be in this and we're getting more Grievous, it should be me. I love General Grievous ever since I saw him split his arms and like they turned into 4 arms with 4 lightsabers like spinning as a kid in Revenge of the Sith. I lost my mind, thought it was the coolest thing ever. It was awesome. I love General Grievous. And if you haven't seen the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars collection of cartoons that have General Grievous in them, they are insane, and I think it is probably by far the best version of General Grievous. But we get to see him in Tales of the Empire now, apparently. And I guess he's going to fight Morgan Elsbeth. I assume it's part of her backstory when she is on Dathomir fighting the Separatists. Or maybe it's later, something happened before Revenge of the Sith when Grievous dies, of course. And normally I'd be really excited, but I've learned the ways of Disney in recent years. This is what they do. They'll put characters in trailers. Even for Bad Batch they did this. They'll put characters in trailers and make you go, oh my gosh, it's that character. And then by the time the actual series or whatever comes out, like okay, that character came and then they went. It was very similar with the Bad Batch Season 3. They put a ton of characters in the trailer that people were like, oh my gosh, it's that character, that's crazy. And so far in this season, they've kind of come and gone. I liked what they did with Ventress in the one episode she was a part of in Bad Batch Season 3, but nonetheless, she was in only one episode, and it would have been cooler if they had just left that reveal that she was back for the fans to see in the actual series itself and not have the surprise spoiled in the trailer. It's very similar here. If the story itself is good on its own merit, then you shouldn't have to put in familiar characters that people know about in the trailer. It should just intrigue you on its own. That way, when you get to the actual series and you watch the actual series and a familiar character pops up, you then can be like, oh wow, it's that character. I had no idea they would be in this, or I didn't see that coming. That's what those moments should be reserved for, not the trailer. And the fact that they put Thrawn, Grievous, and then by the end of the trailer you see Darth Vader, which, I mean, if any character in Star Wars is like the character that will get people's attention, of course it's Vader. He's the most iconic and classic one. He's been around since the beginning. He's the most famous. He's basically Star Wars in a nutshell to anybody who knows about Star Wars. You put him in the trailer, people are going to be like, oh my gosh, it's Vader. Problem is, we've been, oh my gosh, it's Vadering for a very long time now. In one of the trailers for Star Wars Rebels, we saw Darth Vader, everybody freaked out.
I'm so excited!
In one of the trailers for The Force Awakens, we saw Darth Vader's charred helmet, everybody freaked out.
Yes!
In one of the trailers for Rogue One, we saw Darth Vader, everybody freaked out.
Spoken!
In the first trailer for Kenobi, we saw Darth Vader, everybody freaked out. In Clone Wars, at the end of Season 7, spoilers if you haven't seen it, but we saw Darth Vader. Everybody freaked out.
Excellent!
And now, once again, for the 80th time, we're seeing Darth Vader. Some people freak out.
Yes. Well, forgive me for not leaping for joy.
It's like, you can only pull that trick so many times before it just starts getting like, oh, what? Okay, it's Vader. Yeah, that makes sense. We've seen him in a lot of stuff. Once again, spoilers if you haven't played these games, but even in the Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor games, Darth Vader shows up. Wow, it's Darth Vader. Again, like I said, we've seen it a million times at this point, so it's not as special anymore. That's the problem. That's the entire problem of Star Wars right now in a nutshell, is that the little things that used to excite fans and be like, hey, make the fans go like, yes, it's that character, or yes, it's that item, or yes, it's that whatever, doesn't do it anymore because we're used to it. Because one, they keep putting these things in the trailers, and two, by the time that the stuff actually comes, it's not as good as we expect it to be. Even for Tales of the Jedi, even though I really loved Tales of the Jedi, they still put like this cool new Inquisitor in the trailer for Tales of the Jedi. It was awesome. He was like the coolest looking Inquisitor we've had yet. It was insane. He was going to battle Ahsoka. It was cool. We get the series, and, spoiler alert, he dies immediately. Like, literally immediately. No competition whatsoever. He just dies. Coolest Inquisitor we've seen yet. He dies. And what's funny is that that same Inquisitor actually shows up in the trailer for Tales of the Empire, because apparently what they're saying through the trailer is Barriss is being recruited by the Inquisitorius, and the Grand Inquisitor is going to train her and make her an Inquisitor. That seems to be her arc for this series. And then for Morgan Elsbeth, it's all about her backstory and how she became affiliated with the Empire and all that. And again, especially when you consider the characters that they could have chosen. First of all, it should have been Tales of the Sith, not Tales of the Empire, because we've seen the Empire. We have seen the Empire. The Empire has been the main focused on bad guy for the majority of these Star Wars projects now. Empire, 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 Empire. I can't even say it right that many times because of how many times it's been the Empire.
Before the Empire.
Betrayed the Empire.
To the Empire.
Galactic Empire.
It should have been Tales of the Sith. Tales of the Sith would have been way more interesting because that doesn't limit you to the time frame of the Empire. We should... I guess I am biased. Darth Maul is my favorite character. We should have seen more of Darth Maul. And if anybody out there is like, well, we saw a lot of Darth Maul, there are multiple eras in Star Wars where Darth Maul is alive and doing stuff that they have not explored. All of the stuff before Phantom Menace, his training with Sidious, his training under Sidious as Sidious's apprentice, all of that stuff could be explored and it could be awesome. It's been explored in some of the books, could be explored in animation, could be explored in live action, it could be explored. All of the stuff that happens in between the end of Clone Wars and the start of Rebels, all of that stuff is unexplored. We don't know exactly what Maul was doing in that time frame. Totally could be explored. There is stuff to do with Maul as a character that they could have done with this series if it had been Tales of the Sith, but instead we get Morgan Elsbeth. Like, you see what I'm saying, guys? It just doesn't make sense. Like, and even Darth Vader, and I know, like, there's going to be some people who are like, well, we've seen a ton of Darth Vader. If you know anything about the Darth Vader comic books that they made that are actually in canon, those comic books are awesome. Like some of the earlier ones, they are great. And if you made a Tales of the Jedi style series about Vader and some of his missions, the fans would actually freak out, and it'd be awesome if you just based it off the comic books, put those into animation, fans would freak out, and it'd be real Star Wars again, if you did it right, of course. But instead we get Morgan Elsbeth and Barriss Offee. And again, I don't think many Star Wars fans, like the majority, only the ones who watch Clone Wars, and even the ones who watch Clone Wars, I don't know if they're going to want to see an entire story arc about Barriss. Especially when you have, like, if Barriss survives this arc, then that is yet another character that you have to figure out how to end their story arc before Return of the Jedi. Because now, Ventress is back. Barriss is back. I don't even think Quinlan Vos has had a definitive end yet. I think he's still out there. We don't know what happened to him before Return of the Jedi. Ahsoka survived after Return of the Jedi. Ezra survived after Return of the Jedi. Sabine, who apparently was Force sensitive, survived after Return of the Jedi. So every single time they bring a Force wielder back, it nullifies the impact of Return of the Jedi, because one of the most impactful parts about the film is that it's the end. It's the end of the Skywalker saga and the stories surrounding it. So it's like by the time you get to the Death Star and the throne room in Return of the Jedi, you're assuming, or at least fans were way back in 1983, that Sidious, Vader, and Luke, all in the same room, are the 3 Force wielders left living in the galaxy. And sure, you can have some others that you could say survived, and you can write like a way that, like, to explain how they weren't there during Return of the Jedi. But at the end of the day, you can only do that so many times. And the more characters they keep bringing back, the more characters they keep creating new stories for in this specific time period before Return of the Jedi, the more loose ends they have to solve in order to not break canon. And they need to stop breaking canon. Obi-Wan Kenobi, the series, broke enough canon. So stop breaking canon, man. And you have all these stories in the Old Republic, not the High Republic, the Old Republic, that you could take all these characters that you could use and take it could be awesome and great. You could create like a Lord of the Rings style, like live action saga, the same way Peter Jackson did with the Lord of the Rings, and make like an Old Republic saga. There's so many things that you could do with Star Wars that they just haven't done, and they tend to do one of 3 things. They either stick you back in a time period you've already explored extensively, or they give you a story about some characters that you don't care all that much about, or they give you the same types of stories that you've seen before. And at the end of the day, it just gets monotonous and annoying. There's only so many times you can show Vader, or Grievous, or Thrawn, or any one of these characters that people know and love to draw you into watching a story about other characters that you don't care about. So that's my take on this trailer. Is I will watch this series, and if it has some good moments, I'll acknowledge them. But it just feels like the same Lucasfilm trick played once again, and this time I'm not here for it.
Not this time.
But let me know what you guys think about the trailer down in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a very blessed day. May the Lord be with you. May the Force be with you. Goodbye. And that's a wrap.